You're watching News 9, English news as it should be.
Welcome to News 9 and you are watching On Point with me. Today we have 3 on points. First we look at what's on the agenda as US Vice President JD Vance meets Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Second, the fine print of Rahul versus Election Commission Rao. Finally, a report from Ground Zero as cloudburst triggers landslides and flash floods in Jammu. And now headlines. Pope Francis passes away, world leaders pay tribute. Prime Minister Modi says his affection for the people of India will always be cherished. IF pilot assaulted wife abused in a case of road rage in Bangalore to held. Wife arrested for the murder of former Karnataka DGP Om Prakash. News 9 brings you exclusive details. Over 50 cases heard by Justice Yashwant Verma from 2013 to 25 to be heard afresh, says Delhi High Court. Rahul Gandhi writes to Himachal, Telangana CMs to enact Rohit Vemula Act for ending discrimination in education. SSC implements Aadhaar-based authentication for exams to ensure that government job aspirants do not fake their identities. Eight Maoists killed in encounter with security forces in Jharkhand's Bokaro district. Zelensky says Russia is trying to create impression of a ceasefire as attack continues. 59 instances of Russian shelling despite Putin's Easter ceasefire. And Davos meeting founder Klaus Schwab steps down as World Economic Forum chair. US Vice President JD Vance is in India on a 4-day state visit, accompanied by his Indian origin wife Usha Chilukuri and 3 children. Vance's visit marks the first by a sitting US Vice President to India in over a decade, with the last being former US President Joe Biden's visit in 2013. Vance's visit coincides with a rapidly intensifying trade war that has impacted India. The talks are likely to be focused on fast-tracking a highly anticipated bilateral trade deal. So what else is going to be discussed? So what's on the Vance agenda? First is trade. A trade deal between India and US could turbocharge economic and diplomatic ties. The US is India's largest trading partner with bilateral trade valued at $190 billion until recently. Second, tariffs. India was hit with 26% tariff by Donald Trump on 2nd April. If after the 90-day pause, Trump were to slap 26% tariff, Indian imported goods will become significantly more expensive in the US. To avert this situation, a delegation of officials from India will travel to Washington DC this week to convince the Trump government not to impose reciprocal tariffs on July 9. Third, defense deals. India and the US could ink a framework for defense partnership. India also plans to procure and co-produce arms including Javelin anti-tank guided missiles and Stryker infantry combat vehicles. Fourth, strategic dialogue. The MEA says Vance's visit will further deepen the India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership. This including collaborating on cutting-edge tech such as semiconductors, space, AI, quantum, biotech. Students. Concerns over H-1B visa vital for India tech workers in US are mounting. US immigration officials are aggressively targeting international students. Indian accounted for 70% of H-1B visa last year, more than 2 lakh. Sixth deportation. New Delhi may raise concerns to Washington over the deportation of Indian citizens and the manner in which it is being done. Prime Minister Modi was among the first world leaders to meet Trump after his inauguration. Trump and Modi set a target to more than double bilateral trade to 500 billion as the two leaders announced a deal for India to import more from America, including oil and gas. Vice President Vance's visit can help work towards this ambitious target. So the big question is, will India be able to cut a deal with America? Second, what is India's core concern when it comes to tariffs? Third, Indian students getting affected will be able to get an assurance from Vance. I'm joined by Ambassador Veena, former Indian diplomat, Ambassador Jain Dasgupta, former Indian ambassador to World Trade Organization. Let me straight away go to Veena Sikri. People know, madam, that trade and tariff is on Modi-Vance table. That's the agenda. There are emotive issues like students and deportations also, madam. But what do you think would be the priority for Prime Minister Modi? And how do you think that he is going to make the best with the visit, madam?
I think, first of all, the very fact that this visit is taking place so soon into the Trump administration is very significant. As you yourself mentioned, this is the first vice presidential visit after 10 years. We do know that Prime Minister Modi had invited former Vice President Kamala Harris to visit India right at the beginning of the Biden administration. But Kamala Harris didn't visit, and all the time that she was there as vice president, she didn't respond to the invitation. But we have seen now in the Trump administration that Vice President JD Vance and his wife and family are here and showing a lot of interest and excitement about their visit to India and their discussions with the with Prime Minister Modi and other members of the Indian administration. We've seen that Vice President JD Vance is actually a very important and significant member of the Trump administration. He's not like just a number two who is never there, but we've seen that he's been playing crucial roles in President Trump's international interlocutions. Even when President Zelensky from Ukraine was there was Vice President JD Vance sitting there in all the talks right there in the White House, in the Oval Office. And we've seen that in many other cases as well. So Vice President JD Vance is a significant advisor to Trump. He plays a significant role in assessing international opinions and positions and works with President Trump on formulations of foreign policy. So his talks with Prime Minister Modi, which are just about to take off, are very significant. You're right, trade and tariffs will be on the front burner, as it were. But I think India and USA have this subject under control because the work on the bilateral trade agreement is well underway. A delegation is going to the US this week, and we have a very ambitious target of increasing bilateral US-India trade to 500 billion US dollars by 2030. That's really a very big target for all these, in such a short while. So it needs a lot of planning, it needs a lot of inputs. Both countries are interested, and I'm sure that their talks will go into all the nitty-gritty and every detail and come up with good, mutually acceptable and mutually beneficial results. So I think this is important. I think of immediate worry is the question of the deportation of the students. Okay. This is affecting a lot of individual students. We do know that it is expected that this year much.
But a lot of people, madam, a lot of people would say that in American politics, the visits of the vice president is more about optics. When the president's visit or the Secretary of State visit, that's the more substantive thing. Ambassador Dasgupta, we are very close to reaching a bilateral deal with America. What do you think would be the key areas where we can meet obstacles with the current administration under Trump? Sir, can you unmute yourself? Sir, can you please unmute yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we seem to be working very hard to beat this 90-day deadline. And as Ambassador Sikri mentioned, a team is leaving for Washington day after tomorrow. So very significant, I think, developments are expected to take place over the next week or so. And the terms of reference have already been finalized. So within the parameters of the terms of reference, I think 19 chapters, that is what the reports say in the press, have been, initiated. So it will cover four very broad areas. Tariffs, of course, being the foremost. Non-tariff barriers, extremely important. Then customs facilitation will also be a part of this, because the Americans have been consistently, they have been complaining that the customs procedures are so cumbersome and time consuming that it costs American exporters a lot of money to sell in India. So all these things will be there. And of course, rules of origin, so that whatever India sells to the US, it has a certain Indian content in it. And similarly, if the US sells anything, it should not have more than a certain threshold of content which is elsewhere, outside the US. So these are the four basic areas, and let us see how it pans out. But I'm very hopeful that an agreement will get finalized before the 90-day deadline.
Ambassador Das Gupta, United States seeks preferential treatment. 17%, India's average tariff rate has been labeled as highest on any major economy. Dairy, these are the sectors which we want to protect. I mean, so where can be a mutual ground for agreement? Because it's going to hurt us.
Well, that is true. America produces a lot of goods which, or agricultural products, for instance, which are not produced in India, and there are no competing products. For instance, almonds to a large extent, pistachios, pecan nuts. So there are a large number of products for which we can provide access at low tariffs. The problem arises in a few areas like soybean, like corn, like cotton, where, because of the failure of BT cotton in the recent past, our production has taken a bit of a dent. So we are now starting to import cotton for our own requirements. So the Americans want access in cotton in India at fairly low tariffs. Now, as you know, all the American products that I have just spoken about, they are very heavily subsidized. So that enables the American farmers and exporters to sell at very reasonable rates because of the subsidy element. And that subsidy is way ahead of the subsidies that have been calculated for Indian farmers for similar products. So that is one of the major things which I think will come in the way of providing access in a few critical areas. Dairy and poultry, of course, are two other areas where because of the problems associated with not only the small producers, but in the case of poultry, there is another issue about certification, about sanitary standards, because the poultry which is reared in the US is fed on the entrails of other animals, pigs,
Absolutely.
for instance, etc.
Absolutely.
So, that certification is very difficult to provide for the Americans, because we need to tell the consumers in India that this product has, come from, and this also holds good for the dairy products.
Okay. Madam, my question to you is that if you look at the data, half of the students who are being deported from America are Indians. How do we address that? And deportation is also taking place because of a lot of things, campus protests, but the news has come out they are being also deported on trivial issues. Getting a ticket traffic ticket and they are being deported. That's an added thing. It's from the context of domestic politics, not only complete bad optics, but it also shows that there is an indiscriminate deportation which is affecting primarily Indian students.
No, you're very right. I think this whole question of foreign students in USA and the decision that President Trump has taken about foreigners in general living in USA, the illegal, what he calls illegal immigrants. But once you give complete authority to the ICE, the authorities of the customs and immigration, or you give authority to the local people in each city, then it has become very arbitrary. And even a lot of senior visitors from India who have gone as parents of living citizens of American citizens who are of Indian origin and others, they are also facing trouble when they are going there to visit their sons and daughters. And so there's a lot of problem. I'm sure this issue will come up in a big way. These consular issues are very important because it affects in a great way the whole perspective on how Indians view the question of travel to USA. We already know, for example, that for the summer holidays, a lot of Indians seem to have cut down on their plans to visit USA. And I believe that the price of Delhi USA tickets are the lowest in the last 4 years because the demand has gone down so much and people are not wanting to visit. Now, we all know that that Indian tourists are among the largest components of foreign visitors to America. And if the numbers are going to go down, well, it's not good for the American tourist industry. That's one factor that will be taken into account. Secondly, even the number of Indian students who are wanting to study in America this year, that too has taken a beating. And they say that a lot of people are changing their minds about studying in America, especially after seeing the disputes in Harvard University with the American administration and other leading universities with the administration. Funding for American universities may well be affected by the internal disputes with the Trump administration. So all this is affecting the number.
Madam, both of you are diplomats. How do you also account for the fact that Trump himself is a very unpredictable politician, where the private and the public conversation can be merged very conveniently by him, where he quoted our Prime Minister in a couple of conversations when he was. And this time around, so how unpredictable and difficult and challenging is dealing with Donald Trump, madam? This is something which was not there with the Democrat administration or even the previous Republican administration, where private remained private and the public remained in public.
Yeah, but I think the unpredictability and the views of President Donald Trump are well known and the world is adjusting to it. I think India has adjusted to it quite well. I think because our Prime Minister was one of the early visitors in the Trump second administration, it has given him a very good start on knowing what to deal, what the President Trump's administration wants and how we can deal with it for our own mutual benefit and mutual interest. And there are very important perspectives ahead. For example, we are looking at the Quad Summit being held in India very soon this year. So certainly this will be talked about with Vice President JD Vance. And we are looking at the regional situation in South Asia, the question of terrorism. These issues will certainly be discussed very seriously with Vice President Vance. And I think that this is a very, very unique opportunity to knowing President Vance's role in the Trump administration. This is a very unique opportunity for us to convey the messages to him. So I think it's a vital visit.
Ambassador Dasgupta, I really don't know if there would be anything concrete which may come out, but diplomacy is not about immediate results. It's all about meeting people and creating a common ground for larger things. But my question to you is, sir, what remains the biggest challenge in the so-called bilateral trade deal when it comes to the India's interest? In your opinion, what remains the basic challenge for us? What is core to our interest when it comes to the trade and tariff issues with America?
There are two very important issues. One is that the US has not even once in the past 3 months or 4 months mentioned anything about giving anything by way of a tariff concession in exchange for the tariff reductions that it is demanding from its trade partners, including India. So it would be a very difficult thing to convince the domestic constituency that it is a win-win situation, because a trade deal has to be a win-win. You give some, you take some. But in this case, it appears, at least now, that it is only going to be take and take. So that is a problem which will have to be overcome. The second aspect is that, if hypothetically the tariffs are, slapped back on and most countries labor under a tariff of 25% or even more, the US consumers will bear the brunt of it. And of course, there would be economic consequences, and most leading economists on trade have mentioned, including several Nobel laureates, very respected Nobel laureates like Stiglitz, Paul Krugman, and the others. So there are chances that if he goes ahead, and there is a big if there, because he has had the past track record of going to the brink and then stepping back and then making others negotiate. So he could go ahead because he is unpredictable. He may not. He may tone down the rhetoric, which he has already started doing with regard to China, for instance. He's saying that, yes, there could be, if we raise tariffs so much, the people can't buy, American public can't buy, so there is no point really. So it seems that he is offering a kind of an olive branch to the Chinese. But the Chinese are steadfast. They are saying, we will not negotiate unless we are shown respect and there is reciprocity.
But
yes.
Yes, please go on. Please conclude, I would say at the end of it, I've really run short of time. The most predictable thing about this administration, sir, is its unpredictability and its inability to manage what should be private and what should be public. Thank you both of you for joining me. The insiders say that nothing would be officially announced, but this visit is important for India because it's about the sort of relationship that the Prime Minister Modi has been able to build with President Trump, who's one of the most unpredictable politicians right now, who is serving his second term as the President of the United States of America. Tariff war, a global tariff war. And under Prime Minister Modi's stewardship, India is navigating those choppy waters very well. So this was on point one. In the second on point, we'll look at the facts behind the Rahul Gandhi versus Election Commission row after a short break.
I need expert performance. I need my career.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
Smash your way to glory at the News 9 Corporate Badminton Championship. Get ready for the ultimate badminton showdown. News 9 presents the biggest corporate championship, a battle of skill, speed and supremacy. Cash prize of 6 lakh rupees across categories. Venue, Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Hyderabad. Dates, May 9th to May 11th. A chance to showcase your talent and make a mark. The court is set. Are you ready? Register now.
Presenting sponsor, Srinidhi University. Kindle the light within. Venue partner, Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Hyderabad.
Bharat welcomes the world to a new era of creativity. Waves, World Audio Visual and Entertainment Summit. Connecting creators through Creatosphere. Wave Accelerator. Waves Bazaar.
Where stories, ideas, and content go global.
Connecting countries through global media dialogue and Bharat Pavilion.
Shaping narratives and partnerships. Culture, cinema, gaming. Waves fuels the next wave of entertainment.
Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2025.
Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi has embarrassed India overseas again. During a visit to the United States, leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi alleged that the Election Commission in India was compromised, saying that there was something very wrong with the system. Let me play out his bite straight away.
In simple terms, more people voted in the Maharashtra assembly elections than there are adults in Maharashtra. This is a fact. And the election commission gave us a figure, voting figure for 530